environmental health scientists, and we're going to be talking about cooking and food safety for the holidays. So I've got my apron on, all ready to get to work.
That's what I like about you, Dave. You come prepared.
Yeah, I just wear it all the time.
And that's the most important thing about food safety is being prepared.
Welcome to the Southwest Utah Health Podcast. For the nearly 300,000 people living in the region, public health is the ounce of prevention that's worth a pound of cure.
Gathering for the holidays is so fun and such a good time to gather with family and friends and to remember good times from past and to part of those creating those good memories is not having bad memories. So we want to talk about some food safety practices today that will help keep good memories in our future.
What are some things that you would recommend to people that they start thinking of not just the day or a couple days before, but maybe a few weeks before?
So the first thing I'd like to think of is my refrigerator at home. I want to actually start right now to get rid of all that excess stuff in that refrigerator. And if we don't have enough space for those holiday foods, we're going to potentially create problems for ourselves with bad circulation of the air inside the refrigerator, cross-contamination issues with meats defrosting, raw meats defrosting. So we want to create some space. So I'd like to say, take a minute, clean out your refrigerator a week before, and then when you have time to go to do your shopping, you'll have enough refrigeration space to properly store those food items in there without any problems.
Now, a lot of people make a ham or a turkey, so especially for Thanksgiving. Turkey is like
that's my jam.
That's the thing, and as I talk to people, some people smoke their turkey. Some people deep fry the turkey, which I've heard is wonderfully tasty, but also a little dangerous.
Yes.
Because you're putting it in a vat of boiling oil, basically. But a lot of us will buy frozen turkeys, and I've been in a situation before where, let's say it's a day or two before Thanksgiving, and I think it's time to get the turkey out, and I look on there and it says, to defrost, put it in the refrigerator for 24 hours per 5 pounds. And I'm like, wait, I should have started last week.
So you got that monster turkey that weighs 25 pounds. You're literally putting in there on Saturday. So we want to make for sure we look at the size of our turkey, and then we'll take it out, as you said, for a day for every 5 pounds.
Yeah, in the refrigerator. Apparently it's the safest and best to defrost slowly from frozen to refrigeration. A lot of people have been in a situation where, again, it's maybe a day or two before you've got a rock hard frozen turkey, and I guess there's other ways to do it. You can put it in a sink of water, which I understand you're supposed to change frequently.
Yep.
I've also heard, I've read somewhere that some people think, well, I've got to wash the turkey before I cook it. What's your recommendations on that?
So we don't want to spread bacteria when we're working with our turkeys. There's salmonella on there, so we don't need to wash it. However, we do, if you do get in a situation where you aren't properly defrosted, you can use some cool running water, or you can set it in cool water, change out the water frequently, and then make for sure you sanitize your sink thoroughly after you're done with it. Another when you're defrosting in the refrigerator, we want to make sure it's on a pan. Don't just stick the turkey in there on a shelf above the crisper, and let it drip down on all the lettuce and tomatoes and things like that.
So that's actually, when we're talking about food safety, good advice from the time you're shopping forward. So when you're even in the store putting food in the cart, you want to keep raw meats and things separated from produce and things that maybe aren't going to be cooked from the time you buy it, pack it, unload it, or put it in the refrigerator, like you say.
So when I go to the store, I will start with the dry goods first. I will go to the areas where like flour and sugar and things like that, purchase those items first, then I'll go get my non-perishable fruits and vegetables, and then I'll end up last in the meat department. So I can have a little special area set aside so that it's not contaminated in the foods I have, and then when I check out, I'll actually bag up all the foods that are the meats, that are raw meats, into a separate bag and store them separately the entire process to avoid any cross-contamination.
You mentioned salmonella, which is a common source of food poisoning.
Correct.
And again, food poisoning is generally, the symptoms include vomiting, diarrhea, nausea. It can happen quite suddenly, I think within sometimes half hour, an hour of eating a
Yeah.
contaminated food, but sometimes even a day or two later. So sometimes it's hard to tell where it came from.
You can get it within half an hour of being exposed to that. It has some of them have really short incubation periods, and then some of them have a longer incubation period.
And there's bacteria everywhere, including in our gut. Most of it's actually beneficial.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
part of the life cycle. It helps break down foods. It actually benefits health. But there are some strains of bacteria that are toxic or dangerous. They at least can cause illness, if not worse, in humans. Salmonella is one of those, and there's several. There's also different viral bugs that can go around that people can either spread between each other when they get together, or it's from improperly prepared food. So you mentioned a raw turkey is, would be common to have some salmonella bacteria on it. And so you mentioned you're not going to wash it and spread it everywhere, but it can be thawing in a sink of water that's changed frequently. I've heard that the magic really is, regardless of what you do, it's the temperature that the meat, regardless of the meat, needs to get to kill most all of that bacteria.
So we'd want to make for sure that we cook all of our poultry, including turkeys, chicken, stuffing, to 165 degrees internal temperature. And the only way you can really assure of that, you had the little red popper back in the day. I don't like those. I want a thermometer. I want a stem thermometer that's going to go, I can check in the thickest portion of the turkey, and it's going to give me a more accurate reading, make sure that I do get it at least to 165. And then your steaks, whole muscle meat, roast to at least 145, seafood 145 internal temperature, and this is all in Fahrenheit. Killing that bacteria off, like you mentioned, Dave, is key. Sure.
And I know in your work with restaurant inspections that restaurant workers are trained for food safety to make sure they're hitting those minimal safe temperatures. That's part of keeping your customers safe, but they're vital to practice even at home.
Yep.
In a way, you're cooking every day in your own little food service kitchen, right? And a lot of the same practices would apply. So I like what you're saying is even if people like their meat maybe more rare, it's really the heat has to be up to a minimal temperature according to the type of meat. So just to cover those again, it sounds like seafood is the lowest, around 140?
145 for seafood.
Okay.
Whole muscle meat's 155. Excuse me, whole muscle meat's 145.
So that'd be like pork, steak, roast, that type of thing.
Yep. Unless it's been probed, like sometimes they do the pounding of the meats or tenderizing it. That actually should still go to 155. Okay. So ground meats are 155. So ground pork, sausage, ground beef, hamburger, 155.
And just out of interest, why does that require higher cooking temperature versus the whole muscle meat? Once you ground meat, it has to be cooked at a higher temperature because...
Well, so the bacteria is on the surface of the meat, and then we're taking that bacteria and actually churning it and potentially put it more towards the center and spreading it throughout the entire meat product. So therefore, we want to cook it to a higher temperature, ensure that E. coli has been killed off.
Okay. And then again, coming back to the turkey, that's a poultry meat that we're looking at 165, right?
Correct.
That's the temperature you're looking for. You mentioned the little white plastic thing with the red thing that's supposed to pop out. Even last year, so the turkeys still have that in them. Even last year I cooked the turkey.
Absolutely.
It wasn't popping up. I'm like, I think it's done. Now I had a meat thermometer and I inserted that deep into the muscle part of the turkey breast, and it was done, but that little plastic thing wasn't working. So I'm not sure those are really reliable.
I do know, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot if they are, but I do know thermometers are reliable. I've been using them for years, and as long as we calibrate them properly, they're good to use. And like you said, those little poppers, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I'd rather use something a little bit more calibrated and meant for that purpose than anything else.
Right. So a meat thermometer is a vital tool to have in your kitchen if you're cooking meat.
I cannot imagine my kitchen without a meat thermometer. In fact, a thermometer inside your refrigerator is also something people forget about. So we want to make for sure the cold holding temperatures of the foods in our refrigerator is at 41 degrees or below. Okay. And the only way you can assure of that is, again, a thermometer.
So the range is 41 degrees or below for
cold holding.
For cold holding. And for meat to safely kill the germs, again, going to turkey and poultry specifically, 165 or above. Now, this is bringing me to another thing I know that I've heard you guys give recommendations on before. You're having a holiday dinner, family and friends are gathering. It's not like you're scarfing the food and leaving. Some people like to really sit down, enjoy it, and visit. Maybe you go watch a game, go outside and play, come back and have seconds, thirds. And so sometimes the food can be sitting out on the bar or the counter for quite a period of time. Now, at what point do we have to worry about bacteria multiplying and becoming a health problem?
I would say 2 hours is the longest we want to see any food sit out. And even in that 2 hour time frame, if you have foods that are meant to be protected from cold in a cold holding situation, you still want, like whether it's deviled eggs or your meat city or your any cold item that you've made, a salad or something like that, you still want to keep it cold as much as possible. 2 hours is the absolute limit. If it's more than that, you're taking a chance of that bacteria growing. If you got a naughty Uncle Jim that comes and dips his finger in or dips a chip in and double dips and spreads that bacteria from his mouth or doesn't wash his hands properly and spreads that bacteria. Well, if you leave it out, the longer you leave it out, the more chances it has to grow that bacteria and to replicate it. So I would say get some ice containers, some ice packs, surround them with the cold foods with them. Use chafing dishes or crock pots to keep those hot hold items above 135. So we got the cold foods below 41, hot foods above 135 for holding temperatures, and that should keep the bacteria at bay.
Okay, then you can leave it out for even longer before you put the food
Absolutely.
away. So it's like when you go to a buffet in a restaurant or
Yep.
something, that's how they keep their food out there.
Yeah, they have it out there all day long. They have refrigeration units attached to it, and they keeps it below 41 degrees or above 135.
Now let's say you've got some food that's still pretty hot, like it's around that, what do you say, 135 holding temperature
Yep.
to keep food warm safely, and you're putting your food away. Can you just put that hot item right into the refrigerator? Let's say you've got a bowl of soup or a thing of stuffing or green beans that's still in that 135 range.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to let it cool down to a certain point before you put it in the refrigerator?
That's a great question, Dave. So when we put something in the refrigerator that's hot, it's going to heat up the refrigerator. So we want to cool it down as quickly as possible. So we can take it and put it onto an ice bath, surround it with some ice and cool it down, and then put it in the refrigerator uncovered. If it's meats like your turkey, you want to shred it up and spread it out across a pan and then put it in the refrigerator uncovered and let it cool down quickly. We want to get that down to below 70 degrees within 2 hours, sub 41 additional 4 hours, 6 hours total. And if you do that, you're going to eliminate any possibility or not eliminate, but lessen very severely the amount of bacteria that can grow in that time frame.
Okay, so there are some foods that can harbor bacteria, and we can safely prevent cross-contamination and cook them to a safe temperature. But a lot of times we can introduce bacteria not from the food itself, but from the people preparing it.
Yeah, that's that Uncle Jim that I mentioned.
So it sounds a little personal.
No,
Are you adding your Uncle Jim?
Yeah, he's always coming to Thanksgiving dinner and causing ruckus, But it's anyone that's coming to Thanksgiving. If you're sick, maybe that's time you step out and say, I'm not going to come to Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to take one for the team. I don't go to Thanksgiving dinner at my family's if I'm sick, because my parents are of that age where that we call them high-risk individuals, someone that's becoming immunocompromised either through age or either really young or really old, or say they're going through illnesses that could cause them to get illnesses easier. So we call those immunocompromised individuals. So we want to make for sure that we don't show up to Thanksgiving dinner with an illness. And then when we're there, practice good personal hygiene. Wash those hands.
Yeah, what our grandmas and moms taught us growing up, and actually for centuries we've known that washing hands is probably one of the single best things you can do to prevent
Absolutely.
infection and spreading disease. And so maybe give us a crash course on what's the best way to wash your hands. What are the principles behind hand washing?
So we want to do it sufficiently. And so to do that, we want to wet our hands first. We apply soap, hand soap. We scrub for 20 seconds. We talked about this before, Dave. I know we've mentioned, me and you've talked about this before. That full 20 seconds of scrubbing is vital. Getting that good lather going. If you don't have a lather, you're not removing the oils and greases and the grime. And then rinse it off with clean, fresh water. Dry it with a paper towel. If you're using the hand towel next to the kitchen, make for sure it's not the hand towel that you just wipe down the chicken juice with or something. And then anytime hands become contaminated again, it's not just a one and done situation. You're preparing the turkey, you get done, you sanitize those surfaces and wash your hands before you move on.
Some people say, well, what about hand sanitizer? That's pretty good, but I've heard that's a second place to hand washing with soap. It's still not quite as good as good old-fashioned hand washing.
Absolutely. So I always tell my restaurants, you can use hand sanitizer, but after proper hand washing. Let's wash our hands first and then apply hand sanitizer as a secondary level of protection. But in a pinch, you can use hand sanitizer, but it should be the
right.
secondary,
And
not primary.
most of the time, eating or preparing food in your home, you're going to be around a sink with soap and hot water, so don't skip that step. Going back to food as well, we talked a lot about the meats being a source of potential communicable disease, but a lot of the times when you have recalls, and when it comes to salmonella, E. coli, other things, sometimes it's the healthy, fresh produce, the fruits and vegetables that we want to eat more of, and so
they get contaminated.
Yeah, they can get contaminated from where they're grown, where they're processed or washed or sold along those lines. There's been recalls on things like tomatoes, lettuce,
cucumbers, melons,
cantaloupe. Right?
Cantaloupe, yeah.
Talk about fresh produce from the point we buy it to prepare it, things we can do to keep safer there.
So if you've ever been to the supermarket, which I think we all have, you're going to watch people just picking fruits up, looking at them, examining them, and they potentially can become contaminated. So that's why when we put them in our shopping cart, we put them in the bags, and then we protect them from any of the other items that may contaminate them, such as the raw meats. And then when we get home and before we prepare those fruits and vegetables, we want to make sure that we give them a good wash. Clean, fresh water is the best way to do that. And then when you cut them up, you want to make sure you have a clean cutting board that's been sanitized. You don't want to use a cutting board that you previously used for your turkey. I always chop up my vegetables first, and then I move on to things that need to be cooked.
Can you think of any other food safety issues that we've missed? We've talked about keeping food separate, proper temperatures, storage, preparation.
An interesting one that I think of this time of year is, as we're getting together as family, we may not know each other as really well in terms of our dietary issues, allergens. You want to reach out to the individuals coming to your Thanksgiving dinner or your holiday dinner and ask them about their allergens.
And I've run to that in my own family. Some of my older kids have become married, and we've welcomed more people into the family. People have different preferences or food sensitivities, and so it's an opportunity, if you care about them, to reach out to them and say, hey, are there alternatives? Or it also gives them a chance to bring something that they can eat. So between those two, leaning into each other, you can still have an enjoyable meal.
Absolutely. And then you also mentioned those contamination, Dave. One more thought I had is the FDA often has recalls of food, and you can check their website of any of the food that you're purchasing to make sure there is no current recalls and be updated on the information that's out there.
Yeah, well, good. And a lot of times, if it's a serious recall that affects our area, at the Public Health Department, we'll put that on our website or on our social media. Our website is swuhealth.gov. You can also go to Instagram or Facebook and look for SWU Health or the Southwest Utah Public Health Department.
Can I throw one more thing in there?
Yes, yeah.
One more food safety issue.
Bonus tip.
We have those leftovers. We get done, we get with our awesome meal, we properly clean things up, put it away, keep it, and we cool it down properly. When we pull that food back out, we want to make sure we reheat it properly. We want to get that to 165 degrees, and that's going to kill out any bacteria that had the chance to grow.
And it would be interesting for people to look up, too, how long are you supposed to keep leftovers so it doesn't become...
7 days, get it out.
And it's out within a week, right?
Yeah. So I've never had that problem. I eat my leftovers so quickly that, they're gone by... for Thanksgiving dinner, they're gone by Sunday. But for those that do have that problem, after 7 days, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, well, great. Well, Shallen, thanks so much for visiting with us today on the Southwest Utah Health Podcast, and we hope you'll listen to us next time.
This podcast was brought to you by the Southwest Utah Public Health Department. For more information, visit swuhealth.gov.